First off, I just want to say huge congratulations. I know this is your first album in 5 years. I just wanted to
Yeah.
ask you, could you share a bit more about what the past 5 years have been like for the band and how that break has sort of influenced the new album?
It started with, with our last record, we were gearing up to have this really great release with our record The Ride, and then COVID struck. And so we had to make the decision, do we try to wait for this thing to be over to release the record, or are we just going to put it out and give people something during a really, terrifying time in the world?
Mm,
And so we decided to just, put it out, but then we couldn't tour on it. We couldn't do anything for it. And
mm,
for years, it was like, I believe it was 2023 when we first began to go out on tour for that record at the end of 2023. So a lot had transpired in that time. We tried to do as many those live casts where people get together or do like a live stream, and
yeah.
everybody, nobody could like really figure it out. It was like the sound was terrible unless you had the whole thing wired for sound.
Mm,
So we kept trying to do them and they never turned out that great. And then Jennie left the band, which was a big thing for us, and so we had to kind of
mm,
weather that storm. We've never really spoke about it, and we still haven't, but um, then we got Alex and we just kept going. We just kept kind of putting our nose to the grindstone and just went out there and continued to work. And then for
mm,
this record, my boyfriend, he produced it. And I don't know if you know about him, but he produced Sublime and Slightly Stupid and some other
mm,
like really big bands like 40 Ounces to Freedom and
mm,
some big records. And he is just a natural born producer. So he would do things and I wouldn't even know that I was being produced. He got me a digital 16 track recorder, and he got me a Beat Buddy, a little like drum
oh,
machine. And
yeah.
so I started like making demos, and then the girls and I went out to the desert here in Palm Springs to write music together. And
Mm,
I figured out how to wire the whole house with the 16 track. I brought a V drums, virtual drums up
mm,
there, and all of our amps, everything just kind of played through headphones, and we were able to write a bunch of music up there. And Eye for an Eye, which is on this record, the
mm,
lyrics weren't written, but the music was written on that kind of trip. So we kept just trying to do things, and I was being produced for years without
mm,
knowing it. He also created this thing called The Game, and The
mm,
Game is a songwriting game with dice. And so first you roll for like key, and then you roll for tempo, and then you roll for like,
mm,
you could pick like, six topics, love, death, sex. So we're
mm,
just kind of like playing the game to see what kind of came out of us. And we were getting together on Sundays and drinking a bunch of champagne and
mm.
and writing songs together, which was pretty great. So that's what we did, and that's how we started making the record anyways.
Yeah. And how would you say like that sort of shifted like the writing style on this record? This is a very personal record. It opens up about a lot of personal things. So how did you sort of arrive at coming to those themes here, especially through that new process?
You're right. The writing songs this time was cool because we actually did a lot of it together. And that was something that we didn't really get to do on previous records. Sometimes if somebody would have an issue, we'd all work on it to see how to make the song better or write
Mm,
another verse or whatever. But this way was just kind of more us writing together musically, lyrically. I've been through a lot in my life.
mm,
And there was a lot of years where I just wrote from a strong perspective rather than kind of trying to dive into any of the things that I had been through. Because
mm,
quite honestly, I wasn't ready to start, digging the scab off of things to see
mm,
what was under there. And so I was finally ready to go back and look at some of the reasons why we've had to be so strong in our songs in the past. And it was because of our life experience. And I was just finally ready for me to kind of touch on some of that stuff because I was just too scared to do it for years. I didn't want to have to go back to like a negative mental headspace, because
Mm.
all of that shit almost killed me,
Yeah. Because yeah, in the song, was it Dead
Dead
Friends?
friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned a lot about like friends who like have gone into like crawl spaces and like passed away from like doing electricity. And it's like one of those songs that's just like so sad, but also like at the end you kind of like turn it into something positive where you're like, keep on living, try to do what you can. So I wanted to ask, like, how did you sort of like come to that almost philosophy? Like it's very easy to, stay sad about those things. But you
Right.
kind of turn it into something positive and like a more optimistic look for the future. And that's sort of like the theme of the record. So I wanted to ask, how did you sort of decide on that moving forward mentality?
Well, I think that in the last 10 years since I had a massive life change, and it was actually just the anniversary just happened on the 7th of September. And in doing that, when I got out of detox, which is another song on the record, when I got
Mm,
home, my room and my living space was shrouded in photos of all of my friends who had passed away. And I
mm,
had just been making myself suffer for years and years and years and years about those losses, and maybe even having survivor's guilt without even knowing it. And
mm,
then the trauma of it all. I mean, I was just carrying that on my back, and I was going to remember everybody for the rest of my fucking life. And, I was going to
mm,
sing it from the rooftops. And then finally I wrote that song, Dead Friends, and it just poured out of me, because those were little snippets of true stories of real people I've lost. I didn't even change anybody's names. Those are people in my life.
mm,
It was really hard to go back and write that, and I knew that I used to play it acoustically
mm,
without the ending, right? And so I would watch people in the crowd just weep, and
mm,
I was like, okay, there's got to be more to this. Like, what am I trying to say with this song? I'm obviously like remembering all of the people that meant so much to me who I lost, but also why? Why do I care so much, And I guess at the end of the day, their death was slowly making me
mm,
feel like I was dying,
mm,
And I got a chance to change my life, and in doing that, I've just seen how great life can be, even though it's tough.
mm.
And I think that a lot of folks out there don't get to see that perspective very often, or get a chance to change, or go from a very negative mental outlook to a very
Mm.
positive mental outlook. It's
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
usually you get stuck in one perspective for most of your
Mm.
life. And I really got the chance to break free and out of that. And I just really want humanity to be healthy and happy.
Mm. Yeah.
Because so many people that I loved never got the chance to even try.
Would you say even just writing about these experiences was cathartic in its own way?
I'm sure, yeah. I mean, I still listen to Dead Friends, and even when people ask me about it, I kind of like well up with tears,
Mm.
because I'm never going to forget those people, and now the world isn't either. They've been immortalized a little bit, and so that makes me feel good.
How did you find that balance between like oversharing too much or like not sharing enough? Like,
Enough,
yeah,
yeah.
to sort of like get to
It's
the root of what you wanted to say.
right. It's I'm always an oversharer. If you,
Yeah.
I'm one of those people, like, I mean, I've got a big chorus in Straight Out of Detox, but most of my
Mm.
choruses are different every time. The hook is there, but the words are different, because I just really want to dig into it as deeply as possible. So
Mm.
I'm a massive oversharer. In fact, my boyfriend always goes, "You could probably like pick 3 or 4 things to leave out."
Yeah.
Another thing was like the way that I was coached to write good songs is, Fat Mike from NoFX was always kind of my mentor and a dear friend of mine. And he was always like, Stacey, don't be vague, be important. And
Mm.
I think that was something that's always stuck with me, was make your song make sense, make your song have a meaning and a purpose, and make your song be about something you really care about. I rewrite things too, the first, except for Disbelief, that song on this record, I didn't touch. That came through me 100%, and I
Okay.
left it, which is wild,
Mm.
because I usually edit and edit and edit and rewrite until it really sits well with me. But that one I didn't. So I don't know the balance, Ben, and usually I share too much.
Nah, it's okay. Like you gotta like as you said, if you don't, it's not. It's missing its meat. It's missing its
Right.
juice.
It's
Yeah.
like sometimes I hear songs and like bands go to the bridge, and for me, the bridge is the important part of the song where it sums the whole song up.
Mm.
It's like tells the whole reason why. And when people don't dig in there, it kind of makes me mad. Like, you're just going to do
Mm.
some woes. Okay. Who cares? You know what I mean?
I hadn't thought of it like that, but I guess, yeah, you're right.
It
Yeah.
really is the important part of the song. It's like the
Mm.
synopsis. It's the point of the song where you're able to like dig in and really change the meaning to where you want to go for the end of it. I just love the bridge of songs. I think they're
Mm.
super important.
So I also wanted to ask, it's a bit of a curveball, but going back to what you said about playing Dead Friends in front of crowds, I wanted to ask you that, like, because you're also playing this album now on tour, what's the song that you're most keen to bring live to the audience?
Geez, we are so excited because it's been so long.
Mm.
And and we're so excited about this record because it was us making it. Nobody like really hardly produced our stuff and ripped it apart. It was like, this is
Mm.
exactly what we wanted to do. And so we've been playing All Together Now, Struggling, Straight Out of
Mm.
Detox, Disbelief. What else? We were playing Las Ventanas. So we're playing like 5 or 6 songs already.
It's pretty
And we
good.
want to learn we want to get back to doing all of them. We started to do See Me Now as well. And Eye for
Mm.
an Eye, of course, we're playing that one. So we're playing most of the record already. It's just Human is Human, Note to Self, Dead Friends, and the Johnny Appleseed cover that we're not playing. Yeah, we're
Mm.
playing all of them, the rest of them. We
Okay.
don't give a fuck. We feel like this is a time of rebuilding after like losing
Mm.
Jennie and this being the first record without like Fat Mike producing it or Davey Warsop working on it at
Mm.
all. It's a kind of a new journey for us, and so we really are excited to play most of the songs on this one.
It's so cool when like bands like have that confidence to play then all like the entirely new record like on the tour after such a long spanning discography. This is a bit of a curveball, but given events in America right now and also being so prominent in the punk movement, I wanted to ask you, like, given everything that's happening, like, what are your thoughts about punk music right now and the punk scene, especially within America, speaking truth to power?
I love punk rock music, and I think that the punk rock genre is doing some really great stuff right now and
Mm.
always will be the most outspoken about injustice in the world. Our record, I'm sure people were expecting to be a lot more political we've come in very personal on this one.
Mm.
For me personally, I've been pissed, I've been angry, I've been suicidal, I've been all of the sad things in
Mm.
life. But like, I am not anymore, and I don't want to stay in the space of just constantly fighting. I believe my activism
Mm.
is spreading kindness and compassion and trying to help folks find their way out
Mm.
of desperate mental health issues or desperate living situations. I mean, I don't know if you know that I started a nonprofit in
Mm.
2017 with two of my best friends, and it's really taken on. We work with unhoused folks, predominantly
Mm.
women who use drugs and sex workers, and folks who are very, very vulnerable, living on the streets of Skid Row,
Mm.
Los Angeles. And we have a drop-in center, the first of its kind, for women in Skid Row, which is really exciting. And so we're affecting a lot of change
Mm.
in people's lives without having to just be on a soapbox screaming about things. Now,
Mm.
people in my organization are still screaming about things, but my role is more of a healer than it is somebody that wants to stay active and fighting. Like, I've had cancer, man.
Mm.
I am not happy with what's going on in this world right now. That like there are wars, that there are children fucking starving
Mm.
anywhere, that there are people being hurt, and that our rights are being taken away. I mean, that we can't in America, freedom of speech is like first and foremost, right? And it's like that's
Mm.
being stripped away from us right now. You're watching like Jimmy
Kimmel,
Fallon,
yeah.
not Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel just
Yeah.
got kicked off yesterday, and then Colbert, and it's like, what are we doing? I don't feel like we're doing anything enough to like combat
Mm.
this, or their side just really had things so buttoned up that they knew exactly what they were going to do, and they're executing it. It's pretty tough. I mean, working with unhoused folks, seeing how vulnerable they are, and then seeing, you know, people in the news on the right say we should kill the homeless is
Mm-hmm.
like makes me so sad. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
why? Because they're poor and they're in poverty and they don't have what you have and maybe the chances in the life that you've had. So I want to see people put their money where their mouth is more. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you could be pissed in a song all day long, but what are you really doing in life about it?
It's a lot, like definitely. And I think for a punk record, like there's almost too much to cover for a punk record. So I think going personal and talking about the what topics that you speak about on the record is still very punk and just as important.
I feel like mental health issues and people not addressing their shit is
Mm,
why there are wars, is why people are unhealthy, is why there is such a divide between the haves and the have-nots. I just feel so much that like if we were okay in here, we'd probably be okay out there. I think that what's going on in our planet right now is a direct reflection of how most humans feel on the inside. And
mm,
so getting, you know, helping people feel better is
mm.
really where my activism comes from.
Thank you so much. We're just about at time. I wanted to
Yeah,
ask, did
yeah.
you have anything else you wanted to close on at all?
I really hope this record resonates with folks. And I know it's in a time of devastation on this planet with what's going on all over it. You know, putting a record out called Lighten Up is kind of a real
Mm.
fucking statement. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I feel like I said, you know, I just feel like our
Mm,
insides are reflecting, and this is why we have what's going on the outside. So,
mm.
yeah, thanks for wanting to talk to me, Ben. I really,
No
really appreciate it.
worries. Thank you so much,
Questions.
Stacey.